Steve here again. You're still with me. Fantastic. Today we're looking at some case studies that will make you break out of the box. Are you in a box? Are you trapped? Do you feel frustrated with life? Do you feel frustrated with yourself? It's time to break out and be who you really are. So let's look at the case studies that will inspire us. First, Brené Brown. What an amazing speaker she is. She's a PhD, LMSW, and is an astonishing speaker and presenter. She's a professor, lecturer, author, and podcast host. Her talk, The Power of Vulnerability, has had over 30 million views online, and she's written 3 New York Times bestsellers. We can learn from her, right? Brené Brown, methodology. This is the way she operates, and we can learn so much. Have the courage to be yourself. She says, be willing to let go of who you think you should be. What great advice that is. Be who you are. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to show vulnerability. When we take out our humanness, we become less authentic as presenters and lose contact with the audience. Have you got that one? Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Have some self-compassion. Get away from the idea of perfectionism. The audience will love you and warm to you if you're not like some kind of automaton, some kind of robot, some kind of R2-D2. Okay, I know that R2-D2 is quite endearing, but you don't need to be a robot. You need to be you, okay? Lose the imposter syndrome, the thought that you shouldn't be there. She says, never enough, never perfect enough, never relevant enough. That's the way some people think. I live near Oxford, England. Oxford has a university that is world renowned, and I know that there are top-class academics and lecturers in some of those university campuses who have the imposter syndrome. Even though they're at the top of their game, they still worry about their own credibility when they're standing in front of students, because it's Oxford. Don't you ever be that way. Lose it. Lose the imposter syndrome. You can do this thing. Be confident in who you are. You have a unique offering to give, and no one can do it quite like you. You are unique. A big amen to that, right? Do you do amens? If you do, do one now. Amen. Cultivate storytelling. There it is again. Stories. Stories are just data with a soul. I love that phrase. Get a balance between head and heart. You see what's happening here? A lot of what we've been learning together in our course has been bringing out exactly those things. Evidence-based content mixed with emotive content is what works. Head and heart, hand in hand. Pace yourself when presenting. Any sense of speed or untoward urgency only leads to anxiety in the audience. Brené Brown, great advice. These are her techniques and strategies, and it has made her a multi-million-pound speaker. Don't rely heavily on a script or slides. There it is again. Research well, rehearse plenty, present with confidence. Don't take yourself too seriously. Engender a sense of fun. Brené has fun in her presentation. She lets go of certainty and reacts to audience response in a positive way. You've got to be very confident to do that. You've got to know your material, your subject matter, don't you? But we've been saying that all along. Prepare well, rehearse well, perform well. Case study number 2, Steve Jobs. Had to be really, didn't it? He died unfortunately in 2011. He was best known for his innovative work with Apple, the company he co-founded with Steve Wozniak, and his creative and memorable presentation style. We can learn from him. Don't use excessive data, keep it simple. Drowning your audience in stats and information will set them up for missing the main point of your talk. Passion and enthusiasm. Key ingredients there. If you don't believe what you are presenting, the audience will know immediately, and guess what? Switch off. Have a conversational style. Feels like he's talking to you as an individual, right at you. And this engenders confidence and trust. But don't relax just yet. According to Carmine Gallo, author of The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs, How to Be Insanely Great in Front of Any Audience, this is what he says: Steve Jobs cannot pull off an intricate presentation with video clips, demonstrations and outside speakers without hours of rehearsal. I've spoken to people within Apple who tell me that Jobs rehearses the entire presentation aloud for many hours. Nothing is taken for granted. We're coming back to the same things again, aren't we? The same basic principles. Preparation, rehearsal, key elements. Use concise headlines and focus on your theme. Headlines snappy enough to be posted on Twitter, memorable sound bites. Again, we're back to that idea, that concept of hook lines. Tell stories relevant to your talk. Storytelling creates pictures in the minds of the audience that can be memorable, reinforcing the message. We know that already, don't we? Present statistics in a memorable way. When promoting iTunes, instead of saying that 25 billion songs have been downloaded from iTunes, he said that 15,000 songs are downloaded from iTunes every minute. That's a much more effective way of putting it, isn't it? That's eye-popping. Use powerful images sparingly. He used one or two images to illustrate his presentation, but they were carefully chosen and used sparingly. Body language to encourage engagement. He simply smiled a lot. His facial expressions, which could be seen on the large video screen, endeared him to the audience. Deal in the art of the unexpected. He put on a show. The audience never knew what he would produce on the stage next. His presentations were unpredictable and therefore engaging. That's a key principle, isn't it? Be unpredictable in the way you present your material. Be engaging. Don't let them second guess what you're going to say. Like some of those songs that you hear on the radio. Da 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 da. You know what I mean, don't you? Be unpredictable. Case study number 3, Barack Obama. He caught the attention of the world's media with his July 2004 Democratic National Convention keynote address. After a hard-fought campaign, he became President of the United States on January the 20th, 2009 and served 2 terms in office. We can learn from him. Here are some of the principles that he worked with. Know your audience. And to all those watching tonight from beyond our shores, from parliaments and palaces, to those who are huddled around radios in the forgotten corners of the world, our stories are singular, but our destiny is shared, and a new dawn of American leadership is at hand. You see how he's making loads of connections with people, wherever they're watching, whoever they are. Know your audience. Engage your audience with story. There it is again. Here's one. She was born just a generation past slavery, a time when there were no cars on the road or planes in the sky, when someone like her couldn't vote for 2 reasons, because she was a woman and because of the colour of her skin. What an engaging story that is. He was speaking about Ann Dixon Cooper, a 106-year-old woman who was born the daughter of slaves and lived through the struggle of the civil rights movement. Use words to create images in the mind. There it is again. He said, our campaign was not hatched in the halls of Washington. It began in the backyards of Des Moines and living rooms of Concord, and the front porches of Charleston. And above all, I will ask you to join in the work of remaking this nation the only way it's been done in America for 221 years, block by block, brick by brick, calloused hand by calloused hand. You see how he's painting all those pictures in people's minds using that very visual language. Great communication technique. Engage your audience by being personal. Barack Obama told the whole world that he was getting his 2 young daughters a puppy to take with them to the White House. And the world loved it. In his first press conference, he remarked that this was the most popular issue on his website. Don't be afraid to engage by being personal. Use the power of the pause. Wait for the audience to process what you've said, but don't use the moment to look down at your notes. If you look at any Barack Obama speech, you'll see how he uses that pause technique to draw the audience in. The orchestra technique, that's my terminology there. But Obama's acceptance speech had different moods: joyful, humorous, serious, intimate, determined. The contrasts keep us engaged. Just like an orchestra where every instrument creates a different mood, but all aiming towards the end result. Case study number 4. Oprah Winfrey. She delivered a stunning speech whilst accepting the Cecil B. DeMille Award for Lifetime Achievement at the Golden Globes. It was a speech which touched the hearts and minds of her entire audience, bringing them all to their feet in unified applause. Hey, guess what? We can learn from her. Here are some of the principles that she works with. Tell stories to bring home a point. Oh, there it goes again. Ka-ching! Stories can capture our imagination and lead us on a journey of discovery where new connections are made and the penny drops. Ka-ching! Stories must be about real situations so that the audience can make an emotional connection and relate to what is being said. Hint: storytelling is a common theme in all our case studies and actually has been right through our course, right? A powerful way of communication. Don't be afraid to make it personal. She's agreeing there with our last case study of Barack Obama. Oprah brings home truth to an audience by telling stories of her own experiences of life and the things that have impacted her, forming and shaping her into the woman she is today. Use the power of repetition wisely. The greatest speeches in the world use the power of repetition, but in a way that adds impact. Here's an example. For too long, women have not been heard or believed if they dare speak the truth to the power of those men. But their time is up. Their time is up. Their time is up. The power of 3. Remember that? Speak with integrity. Don't exaggerate. State it like it is. This holds weight with the audience who will see through any attempt to overstate just to make a point. Don't be afraid of the soundbite. Memorable short phrases that unpack the essence of your speech become a take-home point with your audience, who will remember the catchphrases. We're back to the hook lines again, see? The hook line theme. Inspire your audience with passion. Be passionate about your subject. If you don't believe in what you're speaking about, the audience won't believe it either. Again, a familiar theme in our studies, right? Take your audience to the mountaintop. Oprah has a clear goal in her communication technique: to take the audience on a journey, familiar, that has a pivotal moment and end goal. Yeah, we know that. This is very satisfying to the listener because they will feel that they have taken that journey with you and will have a desire to take it further. So the key there is for you to make people feel and understand that they're walking alongside you in that journey of discovery, which involves quite a lot of adventure as well. along the way, right? Always have your final destination in mind. What do you want to achieve in your presentation? Be clear from the start exactly where you're heading and what you want your listeners to do as a result. What is it? Have a clear call to action. Again, we're on familiar territory here. Case study number 5, Billy Graham. Much has been written about Billy Graham, the well-known evangelist and public speaker who had the ear of the world leaders and the ordinary person as well. He spoke to hundreds of millions of people in his lifetime, and the impact of his message transformed millions. But what was the secret of his communication skill? We can learn from him. First, have a well-defined structure in your presentation. 1. Make a connection with the audience. 2. Talk about the problem. 3. Offer the solution. 4. Make it personal. 5. Offer a call to action. That's the key ingredient to the way Billy operates. And of course, we've been learning just that kind of structure through our course. Don't try to cover too much ground. In public speaking, motivational speaking, and presentation style, if you saturate your speech with too many words or too much information, your audience will get brain overload. Learn how to make the profound accessible. And Billy said, that's the only way I know how to do it. We must learn to take the profoundest things of the gospel and proclaim them in simplicity. Billy was a master at that in front of stadiums of hundreds of thousands of people. Trust in your source. In Billy Graham's case, of course, it was the Bible. Your presentation must be based on reliable, evidence-based research. Use personal experience, but don't make yourself the hero. Personal stories carry weight because they are testimony. When using stories about others, cite your references. Speak with passion. People will listen to you if you believe in what you are saying, right? They will know if you do believe in it, and they'll buy into it if you're convincing. Don't just be convincing for the sake of it, be convincing because you actually believe it. Your style should reinforce your message. In whatever field you operate, make sure you're implementing the things that you're asking others to take action on. Tell the audience early on what you want them to do. You'll have a call to action at the end of your speech, but prepare your audience early on by hinting what it is you will be wanting them to do. What great advice that is. You're priming your audience. Don't be afraid to include relevant cultural issues. If your subject is affected by social or cultural issues, don't be afraid to expose them. This makes a connection with your audience who will be made to think about the relevance of your talk to everyday life. Case study number 6, and this is the last one I've got in this particular series, Martin Luther King. We remember the famous words, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. And we've already used that quote earlier on, you may remember. He spoke with moral authority. Enduring speeches connect with the heart of the listener. Your character and personality will impact the audience. Let it spill over. Don't be afraid. Be vulnerable. Remember what Brené said earlier on. Vulnerability is not weakness. It can endear you to people and actually give you a road into their heart and their mind. Embrace your listeners' humanity. Do this by embracing your own in your speech. Personal stories work if well thought through. Don't be cheesy, but do relate to the things that affect people. Know your audience. Engage your audience with a conversational style. This makes your listeners feel that you're talking just to them. If you've ever done any television work or worked to a camera, you'll know that you're taught to look straight down the camera lens as if you're speaking to one person. Well, that's similar to this conversational style. You're talking to one person out there who really needs to hear your message. A speech is like a performance. King uses the phrase, "I have a dream," at least 12 times during his famous speech. He knew the power of repetition. Whenever you hear that phrase, you think of Martin Luther King, right? Be well rehearsed, but take command of the stage. This is a recurring theme in all of our case studies. The presenters speak from the heart using catchphrases and memorable stories, but they're not glued to a script. Well, thanks Brené, Steve, Barack, Oprah, Billy, Martin. There's a whole lot of other people that we could have used in our case studies, obviously. Many people. Brilliant speakers. Here are some common themes. We learned about storytelling again, engaging the audience, believing in your subject, speaking with passion, making it personal, taking them on a journey, and calling them to action. I hope you enjoyed that. Great, isn't it, to explore the way other people do it and how we can learn lessons from their methods and implement them in our own style. In the next video, my 8 top insights into getting paid as a public speaker. Now it's getting interesting. See you then.